Good evening, and this episode of Rudy's World is brought to you by Collegeville Costumes. That's right, Collegeville, where the Crimson Ghost Mask Room is your Halloween headquarters for Collegeville. I wish, but isn't that a great sign? Look at that. I wonder how hard these are to find these days. This is a real plastic sign that glows insanely bright under black light. A little dusty. I used to have it hanging up here. I'm doing a bathroom down here, a new bathroom with this basement. I may have the entire bathroom like black light, day glow. Not all the time, because, you know, but wouldn't that be neat? Anyway, this is a great sign. I almost sold this a couple times. I'm so glad I did not. They actually make a mask that looks a lot like this little guy. There's a pumpkin mask by Collegeville. That's like a dead ringer for him. All right, anyway, we're back. We're back here on the channel. This is Sunday, October 8th. Like I said, I know you guys are probably disappointed I'm not doing the 31 days of Halloween. Maybe next year. But, man, it's a lot of work. The time lately, it's just, there's no way. It's, sometimes in the morning I'll be like, oh my God, I have to do another video today. Like, it's a lot of work. I hope you understand, but I'm still going to be going hard. I'm still do as many as I could possibly squeeze into this month. Had some family stuff to do this weekend with my daughter, so here I am back filming a new episode for you today. And we're still on the subject of the Halloween Society. We've got plenty more to talk about. Tonight we're going to talk about two more pieces, two of my favorite Halloween Society pieces. I think they're all favorites. I mean, they're all pretty amazing in their own way. Some are spectacular. Oh God, I don't want to step on this guy. So the two we're going to talk about today are two of mine, and I'm sure your favorite Universal monsters of all time. First up in tonight's video is, and if you don't know what the Halloween Society is, stop this video. Go watch the one I posted 2 nights ago about the golem. It's got a black and white thumbnail with a big stone-looking guy on the front. Watch that one first, and that explains more about the Halloween Society and what we're even going to be talking about in this episode. Come on. All right. The first mask or bust that we're going to talk about in general is my favorite monster of all time. People ask me, what's your favorite monster? Some people say the creature, other people will say the mummy. My favorite monster of all time is Frankenstein, and tonight we're going to talk about the Bride of Frankenstein version of the Frankenstein monster. Here is what the ad looked like from the Halloween Society right here. Flip it around. I don't know if the light's bleeding through, but I'll try to show you what this looks like. So this is Halloween Society Custom Collector's Edition. All right, and this was like a bust starting from like the top of the the shoulder area up the neck and everything. It wasn't a mask. These Halloween Society pieces were all pretty much going to be beautiful display like busts. None of them are wearable masks, so they're all just gorgeous pieces to admire in your collection. And it's crazy back then to think they would advertise these things and they would only make like 10 or 12 or 13 copies of some things. So I'm like, they had to sell out kind of fast, I would think. I mean, anyway, the Bride of Frankenstein. They talk about the monster, of course. This one here says, a baker's dozen only will be made. And if you know what a baker's dozen means, that's 13 copies. 13 lucky collectors. Think of it, all waiting to thrill to a mask we made with our own hands. Price, $125. I would love to only pay $125 for any Halloween Society piece these days. That's unheard of. Although there's one out there. There's one thing in this room that I was extremely lucky to buy in an auction. Yeah, we'll get to that. Not right now. But so for $125, you will get the Bride of Frankenstein limited edition. For $125, you'll get one of the 13 limited copies by the Halloween Society. And please make check or money order payable to Ron McGid and send it to the Halloween Society, 560 South, blah, 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 Suite 1313, Los Angeles, California, 90020. So, the sculptor on tonight's piece, on both pieces I'm going to show you, was a sculptor by the name of Joe Dolanic. Sounds like a good Serbian name to me. Dolanic. I, myself, am Serbian and German. Half and half. Serbian, the best of both worlds. Yeah, you're probably guessing right. I am not a vegan. I love meat. I love an abundance of meat. Pork, lamb, beef. Joe Dolanic is the sculptor on not only the piece I'm going to show you, but the piece that's going to follow this. So, Joe Dolanic sculpted this amazing Bride of Frankenstein monster, which we are going to show you right now. Cat shown for scale. Look at this thing. This is so cool. 13 copies. Now, remember what I was telling you in yesterday's video, or 2 days prior to this. These Halloween Society pieces came with certificates, okay? Here's what the certificate looked like for the Bride of Frankenstein piece, okay? And one thing, I reviewed the old video. I watched the last video I just did on the Golem. I wish I got more into talking about the film. That's one mistake I kind of made, was not telling you more about the movie and what it was about. So I do apologize for that. I was so fixed on getting details right about who did what. I didn't want to screw anything up. These pieces are very important, okay? Especially to older collectors and serious mask collectors in this hobby. I mean, the Halloween Society pieces are a special thing. So the last thing I want to do is make any mistakes on these. And I do make mistakes, trust me. So I believe, to my knowledge, this one was produced in 1986, okay? And according to this COA here, Halloween Society Custom Collector's Edition. This is to certify that Frank, it says his full name, of course, was wise in his generation and purchased copy number 2. So this is number 2 out of 13. Number 2 of 13 masks depicting Boris Karloff as the monster from the Bride of Frankenstein. Oh! They actually put the sculptor on the COA this time. So there's Joe Dolanic's signature, and Ron McGid is right there. So Halloween Society President Ron McGid. So I wonder. I am foggy on some things regarding these guys. I wonder if that tells me if either maybe Dante wasn't a part of this particular run of masks, or did Dante join the Halloween? Did Dante join Ron after this? These are like these little things that pop up in my mind. Because Dante's signature is not on here. But I know this is 1986, and this predates that big ass golem I showed you already. So I don't know, there's just I always think of these weird little timelines of things, but who knows? Maybe they just didn't want to have room. Maybe they didn't have room for another signature. But anyway, very cool. A little picture of old Frankie. I'm going to take the camera down and show you this more in detail. Now, when you would get this, As far as I know, Laura Lady did the hair work on these, and the Tharps were the ones doing the paint jobs on these Bride of Frankenstein pieces. They did not, however, come with this clothing. See the really cool custom clothing here? Frank had a, I've talked about this, Frank had a man who was a tailor in his town, and Frank would have this guy make custom clothing details for a lot of his higher end pieces. Frank had a tailor that would make custom clothing details for pieces that he really loved. And I've shown you some in past videos, but this definitely has custom clothing on it from this gentleman who made little extras. Those little extras make pieces very, very impressive, in my opinion. We will take the camera down here. Hang on, everybody. And I want to show you this a little closer here. Look how nice this is. Joe Dolanich, you did a really great job sculpting this sucker. And Laura Lady did a very, very, that hair is so short. It's crazy, you know. She really gave it that appearance that he was, you know, in fire, and he was charred, of course. You all know the famous scene of that film. I want to carefully turn him here. But this thing is so awesome. This piece was from the Frankenshrine. Like I said, this was in this one room I speak of that was sealed off for 9 years. Luckily, this guy was under a plastic bag. The Curse of the Demon I showed you was not. He was so dusty. But this guy came out, you know, I really didn't have to do much to him because he was covered for decades. Frank was so particular on keeping things in good shape if he could. If he would take them and cover them in plastic and do whatever he could to make sure they were going to live a long, long life when they were something this important. Look at those eyes. I guarantee you the clear coat on those eyes has yellowed over time, and it only adds to the character and detail of this Frankenstein monster. But what a wonderful piece. And I am so proud to have number 2 out of the 13 right here in the collection. Isn't that great? I've never seen anybody really do videos or talk about details on these Halloween Society pieces. Of course, there are websites like the Rubber Room and things like that that have definitely, you know, mentioned them, but at least you're getting to see these suckers in 4K full color video. So, isn't that awesome? All right, on to the next monster. On to the next. All right, on to the next amazing Halloween Society piece. All right, Frankie baby, let's put you away. He goes in the glass case. There's a family guy. Laugh and cry. Fall over. Aha! There he is. First, I'm going to show you the little paper here. Halloween Society. What? Oh. All right, everybody. Are you ready for the next one? Halloween Society Custom Collector's Edition of what? Ahaha. Look at that. Do you know who that is? I'm sure you do if you've watched this channel. All right. Let's see what we got here. You'll feel the strange passion. What? So this basically says, I'm blind, by the way, and they wrote it in Old English. That big. Like, I can't, you know, that's what I can't stand about restaurants that have these menus, and it's dark, and then they make the print that big. Like, come on. Old people can't see that shit. You'll feel the strangest passion the world has ever known when you gaze in hypnotic wonder at the spellbinding visage of Bela Lugosi as he appeared in his greatest role, Dracula. Okay? Blah, 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 blah. Most terrifying vampire in screen history has been transformed by the Halloween Society into the most eagerly awaited mask of the decade. Fresh from the native soil beneath the broken battlements of his Transylvania castle. Dracula rises again as a superb limited edition. A disco. Very so. A discovery. Disco very. Discovery so fantastic you'll doubt your own sanity. Especially in this place, right? So come along, old fly eaters. Your master is here. The only mask that you can... Okay. The only mask that can truly say, I am Dracula. So be dead. To be dead, to be really dead, will seem glorious if you don't send your... Oh, to be dead, to be really dead, will seem glorious if you don't send for this stunning mask today. See, they call it a mask, but it was absolutely a display-only bust. But nobody, who cares, right? I'd rather have a display-only bust in most cases. If you're not too fatigued, send a check or money order payable to Ron McGid for $150 to the Halloween Society, blah, blah. Remember, we are dealing with the undead. Every second you delay can cost you your soul. All right, let's go get old Bela Lugosi. And keep in mind, this piece has custom clothing created by Frank's tailor friend. He is no longer with us either. So this is amazing, and a lot of collectors out there always said Frank had the best Halloween Society Bela Lugosi Dracula. It was the execution of the clothing. It just was, in most people's eyes, the best copy that was made. Okay, look at this. No, look over here. Okay, so this filthy fucking thing. So look at that. I mean, this thing. So now, look at that. My God, is this great. Yeah, this, I've seen other Halloween Society Draculas, and I always thought Frank's was the best. Here's the COA. Okay, take a look at that. Now, Halloween Society Custom Collector's Edition. For one who has not yet lived even a single lifetime, you are very wise, Frank, to have acquired copy number 7 of this first edition Lugosi Dracula mask. This one was 1987, as far as I know. So this came out the following year after The Bride of Frankenstein. That's another reason I did them back to back in this video. Sculptor Joe Dolenich, once again, and Ron McGid both signed this piece. And like I said, they did not come with this clothing. That is a one-of-a-kind look, one-of-a-kind piece done up by Frank's tailor. And I wish I could remember his name. He is no longer with us anymore either. But he made a lot of cool little things. As another example, which you've already seen on this channel, you know, remember this? He did the clothing for Harry Inman's Curse of the Werewolf bust. Just little things like that can really change a mask or a bust. I mean, you guys take a look through your collections. If there's something you truly love and it's going to stay forever, make something like that. Change it up. That's one thing I really noticed for the first time as a collector was when I would visit Frank's and I would see, like, he would really brush and style hair on masks. Even Be Something Studio masks. Like there was old Be Something Diane mask, which is now not in the greatest shape, but he had the hair styled so nice, and I'm like, I've never seen anybody brushing and styling hairdos on Be Something Studio masks. Frank certainly did that. So little things like that, you know, take a brush, whatever, and start messing with some of your masks, and you will be surprised what you can do with these things. Adding clothing is a whole nother, you know, detail that will make your mask stand alone from all the other ones out there. So this is number 7. I believe it's probably, they didn't really say on the other paper, did they, how many were made? It had to be 10 or 12 copies, I'm guessing. So as usual, you know, once you get past that, molds start wearing out very quickly, and that's why people get so excited when they say it's the first pull. Oh my God! After the first pull, you can start getting little problems with the mold, like little things can happen. So first, second pulls are always very desirable out of molds when it's something special, because the molds can deteriorate and break down. You can repair them, but you know, it's always great to have one of those very first fresh pulls out of the mold. So let's get the camera down and look at this guy. Look at that. It's gorgeous. This now sat in Frank's main collection. No. This sat under a plastic bag in Frank's cellar. I would walk by it, and I remember pulling this dusty old bag up, and there was a little sticker that said Dracula on it, and I go, oh my God, it's a Halloween Society Bela Lugosi, just sitting in the dark under a dirty old plastic bag, no doubt since the frickin' 80s, you know. Knowing Frank, he started putting this under plastic when it was brand new. I mean, this hair, this is all the original hair, original paint, and I'm guessing Laura Lady probably did the hair on this. I do not remember hearing who painted these Bela Lugosi's. I wonder if it says in David Lady's book, maybe. Sometimes I can refer to details on pieces in David Lady's book on some of the Halloween Society stuff. So, oh, here we go. Look at this. The next of the 15 copies this time. So there you go. 15 copies. Halloween Society. Joe Dolanich sculpted this interpretation of Bela Lugosi in 1987. The pale, usually pinkish paint job with glossy blue eyes and reddish lips was handled by various artists. The hair was, of course, black. At least one copy of this piece was painted and haired to resemble Lugosi's character in the 1932 film White Zombie. So there is one, at least one Halloween Society Bela that is made up to look like his other character in White Zombie. So I just had to show you this. This is truly beautiful. Just an awesome piece of mask history sitting right in front of us. And you know, when I laugh and say that it was only $150 new, something like this, who knows what it's worth on today's market, you know. Be expected to pay, you know, at least $1,000 for something like this if it surfaces. By now it might be higher than that, who knows, but you know, these Halloween Society pieces, they're very sought after by only a certain group of people. So it's not like it's not like a Halloween 3 mask where you're gonna have everybody and their brother bidding on it. It may be like 5 dudes bidding on this thing if you ever put one on the internet. So, you know, you never know. It all depends who wants it, who doesn't have one. Is their job doing well these days? Are they wanting to go and bid some stupid amount on a mask? So many factors are involved in the end price of an auction piece, especially when it's something very on more of the obscure side of the hobby like this, than something that is so popular, like I said, like a Halloween 3 mask, you know. So, but just an awesome custom piece. What else can we look at in this place? You know what? We should close out tonight's video with a very odd piece. Something that got to be a little controversial out there in the hobby. Not by many, only by one other person. But it's a Frankenstein monster mask. It's a Boris Karloff mask. And it popped up for sale on the old internet, on eBay, of course. Let me get this thing down, because I don't think we've ever talked about this in detail. Oh! Jesus Christ! Oh, you mother... Jesus! All right. This mask. Okay. First of all, let me show you how he was on the old internet. Let's put your hair back. This is how he looked on this old eBay photo, okay? Is this thing on? Is this thing rolling? Oh yeah, it's rolling. We got an hour left. This thing pops up in a eBay ad, and I think it said like 1960s Karloff Don Post mask, blah, 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 blah. And I kept staring at these photos like, look at this weird thing. I sent the guy, I said, can I have some measurements? You know, I want to know exactly how tall, how wide, blah, 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 width. And he sends me all these measurements of it. And I'm like, damn, it's got size to it. However, it's not the original finish. They were not painting them to look like this. Number two, I noticed it wasn't a cut mask, okay? Meaning it did not have a seam cut in the back for wearing, and the eyes are solid, okay? So I'm like, this is a weird thing. And look at the hair. The hair, I thought the hair was unfinished at the time. This is how it looked. So I'm like, I don't know exactly what it is, but I do know it's old. I can tell that this thing is old. Another clue that it was old was the color of the foam inside, okay? Look at the dark orange appearance of the polyfoam. This is old shit, all right? And I ended up talking to, so I throw down this thing and it sells for like $1,200. Like somebody else was after this thing. And there was another mask with it that was definitely rare. Another smooth Frankenstein. And I learned that a friend of mine won that. He tells me, I know where these masks came from. They were literally put away in the late 60s at this place. I can't remember the entire story. He goes, I'm telling you, they're old. And I go, to me, it looks like someone took an old factory Don Post mold and made this display head out of it and never finished it. So another friend of mine who is one of the biggest mask makers there is these days commented on the core style of the foam job. He said a lot of masters are cored like that, so they could easily be pulled out of molds, etc. He goes, this was probably done at a factory or by someone at a factory. He goes, this is not a recast. It's something though. So the measurements turn out to be exactly the same size as my 60s Karloff, which I will get out and show you right now. One of my prized pieces is this 69 Karloff. All right. Now look at this. Study that. It don't get much closer than that, okay, in size. Now, someone out there in mask land who despises your friendly neighborhood Crimson Ghost, my biggest hater of all, and I don't know why. I'll explain some things, but starts making fun of me, like, oh, I found out who paid that $1,200 for that piece. It was the Crimson Ghost. What a moron. He clearly paid that money for a 90s recast. And I'm like, this ain't no recast for several reasons, okay? We'll get into that in a minute. And he just starts trying to make me look bad for some stupid reason. And I'm like, I don't care what that guy says. This is an old piece. And there's several clues as to why. Yes, it's uncut and untrimmed, but that doesn't mean it was made in the 90s. So the things that I pointed out, number one, the crazy dark coloring of that polyfoam, which is absolutely a characteristic of, you know, something foamed in the 60s or early 70s. You get that dark orange aged foam. Something that was foamed in the 90s does not look like that. Okay, that's your first clue. Anybody in the hobby can tell you that. Any knowledgeable person that's been around this in a long, for a long time will know that. Secondly, so when I open I'm in my car, I get out of the post office, I go, I gotta open this thing right now. There's all this controversy boiling because of this Yahoo out there. So I open the box and I see it and I go, ooh, this thing looks old. I remember staring down and I go, ooh, it is old. It's definitely old. Then I got my friend who's one of the biggest monster collectors of all time, like serious monster collectors. He's on another level. He said, I know where they came from. I know they were put away in the late 60s. No fucking way is that from the 90s. You know, and then when this crazy guy out there discovers that guy is the one who owned the second auctioned copy, he was on his balls like, oh, wow, great, oh. But no, since I bought this one, it's like, I'm crazy. So I get this thing out, and this whole time I'm thinking the mask was unfinished. Like they did the hair, they started a hair job, unfinished it. This is when I really discovered something and said, yeah, this was made at least in the late 60s to very early 70s. What happened here is the mask was not unfinished, but the original hair was flipped backwards. Okay, I'm going to show you something here. Look at this. Now, masks made in that era, late 60s up till about 1973, when they would apply hair to a Karloff Frankenstein or a Glenn Strange Frankenstein mask, it was done in this style where there was a part across that top of the head like that, okay? You see that? This hair would go backwards, there would be a big seam, like I call a part, but a seam, and the rest would go forward. So this is not, it was never glued down properly or finished. So it's an unfinished thing, and that is clearly a sign that this thing was haired in that time of probably late 60s, if not very early 70s, 1970. You know, this 1969 Karloff, oh my God, would you look at that? Oh yeah, and there's cracking in him. Look at, the latex is so old. There's cracks in it. No doubt. A characteristic of late 60s latex rubber. It's getting the stress cracks. Ain't no 90s mask doing that. Look at the old aged rubber there. Look at that. You gonna tell me that's from the 90s? Look at the color of that rubber. Old barge cement, old brown barge cement. Hello, McFly. And the funny thing is, nobody in their right mind in the 90s, Don Post, in 1983, Don Post was doing hair completely different. They were doing this spiral method where the hair was spiraling out from the center, like boom, 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 boom. And there'd be one sticking straight up, and that would get put out at the very end, flattened. And that's how it was done since 1977, all the way through the 80s, all the way through the 90s. So there's no way somebody's going to cast this in 1995 and go, I'm going to do this old dumb way of hairing it and use late 60s hair material. This old wool style hair is late 60s hair material. So the clues kept building up as to why this was no way a damn recast from the 90s, okay? Clear as day, this thing was old. Whether it was a production mask or a copy out the back door of a factory, whatever, of the factory. Just to prove my point, again, here is Smooth Frankenstein, 1967 Smooth, okay? This is one of the rarest Frankensteins in this room, okay? He's stuck. This mask, boom. Same part, same exact type of hair. That old woolly, you know, soft, black. I mean, it's the same shit, same material. Hands down, no difference. 1967. And my friend's telling me he knew these were put away in 1968. So this went on and on. This guy was carrying on like a little child, you know, for the longest time. And to prove my point even more, 1976 Smooth, okay? 1976, old style hair still, but boom, the spiraled hair started at least in 76, like I said, 76, 77. So there's no way someone's going to take that thing in the 90s, grab late 60s hair material, and say, I'm going to hair it like these old dudes were doing in the late 60s at Don Post Studios. No doubt was this thing created in the late 60s. And I feel very strongly it could have been from the Karloff production mold, okay? This one right here. I mean, it matches up insanely. It's all the same, okay? So my intentions are, this is one thing I should do for Halloween time, is finally fix this mask up. It has become one of my favorite pieces down here. Because it's a Karloff Frankenstein. I love Frankensteins. This is one of my favorite masks I've ever owned in my life. This, though, I want to finish the hair off. Okay, so I'm going to finish gluing it down. I'm going to paint his eyes in, either black them out, paint them in, whatever, and just make him, you know, finish him off. I'm telling you, this thing finished off will look incredible. It's just something I had to show you. I don't think we ever talked about it on the channel. And regarding the guy that hates me, I never did anything to him. I do now, though. I talked to him for a few times back in the day, and then I just would watch from the shadows, like watch this guy talk shit to people, and he was kind of like a dick to everybody. And the biggest, I said, I'm going to block him. I never had a problem with him, okay? But he had this picture of a wrestler's face. And it was the picture, I couldn't stand this photograph, that it was his profile picture of this stupid wrestler's face, like, and it was a combination of that photo and this guy acting like a jerk to everybody. And I said, I'm just gonna like block him and not see any negativity anymore from him. And that must have got him, you know. But I always wanted to talk about this thing, and I never did. And it's just really cool. It's no doubt old. I mean, anybody watching this, I just showed you all the clues. Old style hair, late 60s, mid to late 60s hair material, mid to late 60s hair part styling, old foam. I mean, the size, if this was a recast, recasts lose generations over the years. They get smaller and smaller and smaller. By the time Karloffs were recasted in the mid-90s, they were like miniature little versions of this, half his size. Go find any recasted Karloff, and they're like little mini heads. So this thing lining up perfectly, nose to nose, no doubt is this probably from the at least production mold at Don Post Studios. Someone casted it, took it home. I'm going to make myself a cool Karloff head, and they never finished it. So I need to really start messing with this and fix him up, because he deserves a makeover, and slight makeover, and he deserves to be finished off nicely. Right? So that's that for tonight's video. October is here. The leaves are falling. Lots of work to do outside, but man, it's beautiful out there. Thanks for watching this, and we will be back with another episode, hopefully tomorrow. I'm not promising anything, but we've got a lot of Halloween Society pieces to bring to you this month. So thank you, and good night.